Hello class, Ryan here, and for week 7's discussion, I chose the Eighth Amendment as a topic. Before I continue, I'll state that according to course guidelines, historians must be objective and honest in their investigations. My references are posted in the abstract, and 2 come from the Jerry Falwell Digital Library, 2 come from the National Constitution Center, and the last is a news article from the Washington Post. So before I get started, I was doing the Lutz reading for this week. And there was a comment in there that Lutz cites Alexander Hamilton as saying that the American political system is an experiment in government directed by a free people using reflection and choice as opposed to accident and force. I think if you look at the Eighth Amendment from its introduction through how it's been interpreted throughout history, you can kind of see examples of that. So the Eighth Amendment in the United States Constitution states, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Stevenson and Steniford state that this is designed to prevent the federal government from imposing unduly harsh penalties on criminal defendants for the price of pretrial release or as a punishment after conviction. This is a carryover from the English Bill of Rights. It was included in the Virginia Declaration of Rights by George Mason. This amendment would prevent barbaric punishment by the government, such as the rack, thumbscrews, or being drawn and quartered at that time. Most amendments in the Bill of Rights deal with rights prior to being arrested and also what the people are entitled to. The Eighth Amendment deals with the punishment phase within the criminal justice system upon conviction. Stevenson and Steniford also say that this was important because the Constitution granted new powers to the federal government, and they could create federal crimes and punish violators of them, which had opponents of the Constitution fear that Congress could use these powers to use cruel punishment in oppressing the people. Regarding schools of thought, whenever it comes to Supreme Court justices and how they interpret this amendment, Heffernan sees 2 schools of thought, originalism and historicism. Originalism is the belief that the Constitution is to be understood as the founders intended, while historicism sees the Constitution as coordinating text of the present generation through ongoing consent. So it's interpreted as a society matures. Steniford cites Chief Justice Warren's opinion in Trope versus Dulles in 1958, where he said the amendment should draw its meaning from evolving standards of decency that mark the progress of a maturing society. Steniford further goes on to state that by standards of decency, you could actually get rid of the death penalty, but in defense going against that, he goes on to say that the death penalty is constitutional because it is a traditional punishment that has not fallen out of use. Howe shows that the court prohibited the application of the death penalty in certain cases where they ruled that the penalty was not proportional to the crime. The overrulings were, a few were in 1977, a rapist was prevented from receiving the death penalty because, yes, he committed a rape and that was law in the books, but he did not take a human life. In 1982, a felony murder, where the murderer did not intend to actually kill, that was overruled from the death penalty. 2002, a mentally disabled offender, the Supreme Court overruled them receiving the death penalty as well. And in 2005, an offender that was under 18, the court ruled against them receiving the death penalty. The Supreme Court has also overruled non-capital cases where there was excessive sentences, such as hard incarceration for minor punishments, such as writing a bad check, being addicted to narcotics, things of that nature. Finally, I found a Washington Post article written by Robert Barnes on the Timms versus Indiana case, where Timms pled guilty to dealing drugs worth $400. His sentence was at that $1,200 fine, a year home detention, 5 years probation. The state then seized his $40,000 Land Rover because he used that committing the crimes, but it was produced, he acquired it through inheritance. The Supreme Court actually had a 9-0 ruling this year on it, saying that the seizure of the vehicle was an excessive fine. So you can get a quick snapshot of why the Eighth Amendment was included, its importance, and how it has been applied and modified throughout history. I'm looking forward to responses and also seeing the rest of the class's posts. Y'all have a great week.